All right. So let me just ask you this question, because this is something I feel like I end up encountering quite often. Is like you meet a young person, they're in the game, they're doing illicit deeds, but you admire the enthusiasm and the passion and how excited they are about entrepreneurship. But then at the same time, you're like, you dumbass, you're gonna end up in jail. Does this happen to you a lot?
All the time. And I try to reach out because I love those guys because they remind me of myself when I was young.
Exactly.
So I got a special admiration for them, and I believe that if they learn how to channel that passion, that determination, and that energy into something legit, they'll be a force to be reckoned with.
Right. Because it's like and that's kind of the irony of it, is that is stage one entrepreneurship for a lot of people.
No question. And especially when you grow up poor in the ghettos of the United States, that's usually the first trade that you see, you know, that if most entrepreneurs see, unless then they grow up, you know, in privileged households. You know, I talk about it all the time, you know, why the rappers rap about selling drugs is because their first role models are more than likely drug dealers.
Because it's hard for them to relate to, you know, if you look at the guy who owns the supermarket, it's like, you know, he's an entrepreneur too, most likely, and but it's hard for you as a young person to imagine like how you could ever possibly go through enough steps to get to that situation. For somebody like you, I'm sure even the idea of being a lawyer or a doctor, I mean, that's completely out of the realm of something you could consider. Whereas these guys who are on your level, the young people you're around.
No doubt. When you look at a supermarket, what's the entry level to owning a supermarket? You know, you got to buy the land, and you talk about here in Los Angeles. To buy a lot that a supermarket is on or a supermarket is already existing, you're talking about a couple $1 million. So, you know, now here you're talking to somebody who may not have $20 in their pocket, but now if you can get up on $5 or $10, you can take that and parlay that into a career. You can start right now with $5 in drugs and you can make $1 million a day.
And then the irony though is that we're describing selling drugs as like stage one of entrepreneurship, but then they throw you in jail until you're 35 fucking years old if you get caught.
Yeah.
So we're not really leaving a lot of room for people to make mistakes.
No, not at all. And I mean, and you know, it's really weird to me the way that they treat drug dealers so differently than they do the users. And I believe personally that they're both equally culpable, because if you take away the drug user, there's no need to have dealers, and if you take away dealers, then the users can't get their drugs. So I believe that they're both equally culpable, even though the system has treated them, you know, with great differences when it comes down to sentencing and so forth.
You ever read any of these like studies that they'll do in Europe in particular, where they'll like take someone who's addicted to heroin and then they'll like bring them into a clinic or whatever every day, and they give them a certain amount of like pure drugs or whatever. It's all administered through the government and everything, so it's safe. And then they end up that a lot of the negative impacts that come with being a drug addict sort of vanish once taking care of your addiction is sort of placed into this system where you don't have to be doing all the stuff that normally comes along with drug addiction, run around the streets, dirty needles, everything.
I read a lot of that when I was in prison. I mean, you know, when I was in prison, I wanted to know as much about drugs, the business, addiction that I could possibly learn. And yes, I read studies where they were doing in, it might have been London. And they were talking about how people at one time were strung out, but then they become functional drug addicts, where they would go to work on time, pick their kids up from school. I mean, they were doing everything almost like cigarette smokers here. You know, cigarettes are cheap enough that people can afford them without having to go and rob for it. You know, with most drugs, that illegal drugs right now, is it has an inflated price. it has a price that prohibition marked it up, and what happens is that it drives it to where the normal person working on the job can't afford it, when in actuality it really has no value. It only has the value that we placed on it.
Yeah, that is weird to think about too, because like the price bumps happen at the borders, essentially. It crosses this imaginary line between Mexico and America, and all of a sudden it's worth 10 times more than it costs over there.
Exactly. When the leaves are probably worth $20, for a kilo of coca leaves, and then once they process it, it might be worth $400 or $500. But then once they put it on the back of the mule, it just constantly escalates and escalates until it's here in America where. When I was doing it, the first time I bought a kilo was $45,000 for a kilo, and the last kilo I bought was $9,500.
Right. So you just kept getting closer and closer to the source.
Yeah.
Well, that was one thing I was thinking when I was watching the documentary last night. Is like a lot of the prices for cocaine or for kilos that he seems to be citing seem like they're probably still pretty much the same rates these days, like 25, 30,000 ish.
Well, now it is. I heard it's around there. But we were able to drive it down. We drove the price down. Like I said, the cheapest I ever got, it was 9.5, and they probably could have went lower than that. Knowing now what I know now, I thought, woo wee, 9.5, they ain't making no money.
Right.
But once you find out what it actually costs and what's the real value, they were still making good money.
You ever go to Colombia and shit?
Nah, man, they offered me the opportunity, but I was like, nah, I do all right.
You think you would have left alive?
I don't know. It's crazy, and they wanted me to bring my money over there, and like, $3 million. I don't know if I want to go to Colombia with $3 million.
They wanted you to get on a plane with $3 million.
Yeah.
This is a different age. It's pre 9/11, right?
Yeah, it was pre 9/11.
Right.
I mean, it was. They had the metal detectors then, but not the body scanners and the whole setup we have now. No.
Wow, that's incredible. I guess for people out there, they probably want to kind of understand at least a little bit of like how you got into the game, basically, like how you went from a citizen to a person who would then go on to become essentially one of the great American cocaine dealers of all time.
Well, it happened gradually, and it starts from environment, seeing other people participate. And then not being able to read, limited my opportunities of what I could do and what I couldn't do. It gave me less of a choice. My plan was to go to college and play tennis, not knowing that not being able to read, that no college was going to accept me. I thought that it would be like it was in high school. Where
you didn't figure that out till too late?
Yeah, it was too late.
In terms of the tennis thing?
Yeah.
Were you gifted at tennis?
I worked hard, it's something about working hard and being gifted. They kind of like go together, and that was the case with me. I was pretty good. I wasn't as good as a couple of my friends. I had a couple of friends go on to turn pro, and I think one made it the top 100 in the world. One, when he graduated from college, I think he was in the top 6 in the country.
Right.
Me and him played 1 and 2 at our high school. And when he got ready to go pro, I was able to help him go pro. I was like, I chose a better job than you did. Good luck with tennis.
Right. But do you think, like, was Arthur Ashe that big of an inspiration to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Was that huge? Is he the one who made you feel like you could do it?
Arthur Ashe was tremendous. I mean, I just loved him. I loved everything about his attitude, his willingness to give back, to come in the community. But you know what? I go to the theater one day and I see this other guy, and he takes Arthur Ashe's place. Now it's like, okay, Arthur Ashe is cool, but this other guy.
Who?
This Superfly guy.
Yeah.
The guy with the Cadillac.
There's a weird line. Like, a lot of times I've been talking to rappers, and there was a whole movement in LA, the jerkin movement in like 2011, 2012, where it's like, young kids, and the whole vibe of it was very fun, and everybody's dancing and making these videos, putting them online, and everybody dancing. And then they all describe how then, just being an adult caught up with them in the sense that all of a sudden it just it's too irresistible to be running around with guns and being in gangs and shit like that for these young kids, and all these kids who are essentially part of this like fun, love, and dance movement essentially at certain points sort of just separated and got more into the street life. And do you feel like that's kind of similar?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the videos that we're seeing on on the screen and all through the '90s, it started to take place. Where the gangster rappers started to make a move, and the record labels started to fund that movement. They wanted the gangster rappers. I mean, it goes as far as I don't know if you heard, but it was a letter that was circulated one time where when the record labels said that they wasn't making money selling records, so they invested in prisons. So they also started promoting prison music, music that would tell the young kids to go out and take drugs and shoot up people and all sorts of ridiculous things. And the kids believed that their heroes were doing it and getting away with it, like, oh, you can go out and shoot somebody and become a rap star, and that's the ticket to getting in.
I mean, it's just easier to sell violence and death than it is to sell good times and positivity.
Absolutely, absolutely. They say bad news travel fast, so they play on it, and hopefully we can combat that with some positivity and let them know that there's other ways. Because I wish I would have had somebody that could have grabbed me and showed me how I could take my energies and my determination and my willingness to sacrifice almost everything. I was willing to sacrifice my life. I was willing to kill for it. And when I got to prison, and I was really thinking, right. I was thinking to myself, I'm in my cell, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow, you was willing to sacrifice your own family. It was days that I would ride. Well, my mom wouldn't move out of our neighborhood, and it became a thing in LA where they were kidnapping drug dealers and kidnapping their families and stuff like that. And one day I'm riding down the street and I see my sons riding their tricycles in front of my mom's house because my mom wouldn't move. And I said to myself, if somebody do something to my kids, I'm gonna hunt them down. And when I got to prison and I thought about what I was saying, and I was like, wow, you put your kids in danger from the line of work that you was doing.
Because just getting into that position alone, regardless of anything else, you kind of know that you're putting everybody around you at risk.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody. I mean, I've known people where, people went in and killed everybody in the house. I've been in jail with, guys that was accused of killing everybody that was there, and what happened? Wasn't going to be no witnesses.
Yeah. And in a weird way, you can understand it, too, because that's just the rules of the game, is that at a certain point, a bunch of people got to die in order for all the territory to be figured out, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And then, when you're playing the game and you don't know the rules, a lot of times we get into situations and we ain't did our homework. We just got in, everybody else was in, we got in, and
right.
You look up, where we at?
There ain't no perfect licks. It's perfectly planned out licks don't happen that often, right?
No. How did I get here? Right. You don't know.
But when you look back at yourself as a young boy, was there any reason for you to think that you would have such limitless ambition?
No, I never thought that I would be like this. I mean, it's kind of nerve-wracking too.
Right, because it carries on. It wasn't just cocaine based.
No. It's everything I do is like this, and I like my brother. He can sit in the room and watch football games all day and chill and smoke him a doobie and maybe drink him a beer and he's good. Me, no, I'm pacing the floor, watching my phone, calling this person, hey, where you at? Why we ain't did this? What's going on with that? Constantly looking for an advantage.
And you always had that?
Always, ever since I can remember, man. When we were little, like 12 years old, I used to organize car washes in front of the house. I used to cut yards. I used to hustle bottles from the neighbors. I mean, I have enjoyed making money all my life. I mean, I really, really get a kick out of it. All my old ladies, they get mad at me. I can't keep an old lady because they don't like it. They don't like, I guess, being ignored. Like I might come in, I'm into the phone, and I don't even see her. Not personal, nothing personal. Nothing personal though.
You got to figure out a balance at a certain point. At least from my perspective, it's like I can't just come home and do what I like. Once you enter the house, like once you come back home, it's like you can't. I want to be looking at my phone. I want to be doing whatever, but it's like I have to find a way to like separate myself from that crazy entrepreneur version of myself for that moment when I come home, just to keep the girl happy.
Yeah,
That's a tough thing to learn right there.
yeah, it is, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. So, get with it. Come on, join me. Let's get in the phone together. Why can't we have fun making money?
Mm-hmm. But it's hard to find girls who are on the same page.
Yeah, nah, you're right. And black women are worse.
Why do you say that?
Phew, they are, man.
They just want more respect.
No, they want more goods. More goods, more time.
Okay, I can see that. So you've always only dated black women?
Yeah. I never dated anything outside of black. I don't know. So such a short time, and not really knowing other races. When I was growing up in South Central, was nobody else coming to South Central. Now it's kind of integrating where Hispanics are moving in and. Occasionally somebody white will come through, but I didn't have many white friends. I think I only had like 1 or 2 white friends my whole life.
Right.
One was a guy that played football with some of my friends who got bussed out to the valley, and he would come back from the valley and just hang out in the neighborhood. And every time he would come over, the police would be like, "What are you doing over here? Are you all right?" And,
right.
As if he was kidnapped or something like that. Yeah. So it wasn't really that much intermingling between the two. I think the first time that I really had a real relationship with somebody outside of black was my lawyer when I was going to prison, and me and him was visiting every day, talking 2-3 hours a day in the visiting room. When I really got to start to know what it was like, or had any clue of what it was like, to be other than black.
Right. So when you started selling cocaine, though, how long were you on the smaller program of selling grams or selling ounces or whatever? How long before you actually moved up to moving serious weight? And what had to take place in order for you to make that succession?
It took a couple months really to catch on to what I was doing.
Months.
Yeah, it took some months. It didn't happen. No, all y'all overnight success. No, it didn't happen overnight.
No, but a couple months seems like pretty much overnight to me. I mean, most people sell grams for many years and never get anywhere. Probably because they put most of it up their own nose. I know guys who sell
and on their back.
They're still selling coke.
And they're on their back.
Yeah.
They go buy the new shoes. And with me, I didn't do that.
You weren't into the fancy shit. That's what. And when I'm watching the documentary, that's what kind of stood out.
My mom was strict. And she watched your tennis shoes, your pants, and everything.
But you were making a shitload of money, and you were still with your mom for a significant period of time?
Yeah. When she found, I don't know, she kind of knew I was doing something, but she didn't really know, right? And she had kicked me out of her house already because too many people were coming over. She's like, "Oh, you got too much company. I don't know what you're doing. Get out of here." So he throws us out. And I'm living in her garage anyway. I ain't living in the house. I'm living in the garage. She threw me out the garage. So... but she still allowed me to come in and keep stuff and my money. So one day I come in and she has my money out on the couch and she's counting my money. And I was like, wow.
How much you think it was?
$100,000.
Yeah. Your mom's like really confused by that.
Where you get this from?
Probably not that confused. She probably kind of knew exactly what was going on, right?
Are you in the mob?
Yeah.
Can you get out? Can you get out right now?
Really?
I think her house cost like $15,000, right?
Right.
And she was paying like $150 a month or something. And she was like, "Can you get out right now?
Yeah.
Can you just quit?" And I was like, "No, Mom, it ain't like that. Ain't no mob. We."
When you got into it, though, was cocaine not so stigmatized that it really didn't seem like it was like that? Like you really thought that you weren't doing something so bad?
Oh no, it was almost like how people look at marijuana right now.
Right.
Like everybody that was hip was doing it. You know, like if you had some money, you're freebasing. They would be bragging, "Oh, we going freebasing tonight." And you know what freebase stand for?
Right.
Do you know what it stands for?
Freebase.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're just gonna put me on the spot. I don't know. You tell me. I'll pretend I already knew.
What freebasing was a saying that they used to say to somebody who didn't have money. "Oh, you a freebaser." you know, you want to be a baser, but if you ain't got no money, you a free baser.
Okay.
So you're gonna be basing for free off of somebody else's product. So that's where it started.
Really?
Yeah.
That, you know what's crazy is that you were on such an early version of the Joe Rogan podcast, like crazy early, like super bad quality video and stuff. And it was funny too because he's asking you like very like rudimentary entry level like cocaine questions, like why does crack why is crack way more than coke? It's like, well, you're mixing it with something else and cooking it. It's like fucking, of course it's gonna weigh more.
Yeah,
it's not actually more of the drug. It was kind of cute seeing Joe Rogan in that position and not knowing something.
I enjoyed Joe's show, man.
Yeah,
Joe,
a couple times.
Joe, yeah, he had me on twice. Matter of fact, Joe gave me a great idea.
What was that?
Well, when I got out, I was doing really bad.
Uh-huh.
My mom lost her house.
And what year are we talking when you got out from your first bid? And how long was it?
No, this was my second bid.
Okay. But the first bid was how long?
I did 5 years and like 6 months.
Okay.
Months, something like that.
And then you got out for how long before you went in?
6 months.
Jeez. Okay.
Heartbreaker.
Yeah.
The worst.
Yeah. And you got set up.
Never get out of jail from doing 5 years and go back in 6. You'll be fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the worst feeling in the whole world.
And how long was the second bid though?
Like 14 and some change.
Okay. And you got out approximately what year?
2009.
Okay.
Exactly. I know that date.
Right.
That's the date Wikipedia got for my birthday. May 2009, the 4th day.
Well, there's got to be somebody out there who can fix that for you.
We did. I don't know how many times, but they want that to be my birthday. I guess that's the date that I resurrected. LA Times said I died, so
right.
I guess I re-erected that day.
So you're talking about when you got out approximately 2009 or so, what was the idea he gave you?
Say that again?
The Joe Rogan idea that he gave you?
Oh, well, I went on the show and I was, just telling him about how, how I was doing, what things wasn't going well for me financially.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe was like, well, man, you need a T-shirt. And I was like, a T-shirt? The hell I'm gonna do with a T-shirt?
Mm.
I couldn't fathom, what a T-shirt could do for you. I'm like, it wasn't something that I thought was tangible. Well, anyway, after I left his show, I'm walking down the street, and I ran into this guy named Rick Clark. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the founder of Fresh Jive.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he was like, man, I got an idea for you. I heard you on the Joe Rogan show, and I got an idea for a T-shirt for you. And so he said, the real Rick Ross is not a rapper. I was like, that's so corny.
The best-selling T-shirts always will give you that feeling for a moment of like, damn, that's corny. But it might work. Yeah.
But, I said, you know what? What the hell? I ain't got nothing to lose. And he was like, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to print it up. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to design it. I said, all right, let's do it. So we did the shirt, man. And I go back to Joe's show, and Joe put the shirt on. He wore it on the podcast. He puts it on, and man, my PayPal went crazy.
Really? That's badass.
My PayPal went crazy. I mean, like I said, we were living in a vacant apartment, that a friend was managing, and he allowed me to stay there while I got myself back together. And man, we woke up one morning, it was $18,000 in PayPal.
Really?
Yeah.
You must have felt like, damn, I'm back selling dope.
Ooh.
And then, ironically, T-shirt is like slang for cocaine from time to time, right?
It is.
Yeah.
But they've used
everything.
If you was under investigation, everything you say, get 10 of those microphones, kilos, 10 sets of headphones, 2 headphones, and I mean anything, carburetors. I've seen, so many different things be interpreted as cocaine when you go to court.
When you look at the game, like I know obviously you're not thinking about selling drugs at this point in your life, but when you look at the game, you must look at the surveillance, the level of, social media, everything. The game must seem so different to you in terms of like when you got into it, it must have seemed like, damn, an easy ass game to get into in comparison to how fucking crazy shit is now with all the surveillance and stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have made it right now with all these damn cameras.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I've been breaking people's phones and.
Yeah, for
like,
real.
Fool, don't take no picture of me. What is you doing? Yeah. I mean, it probably would play both ways, because you probably would be a little more organized. But then when you're more organized, when you go to court, they get all your organization records and and present all that. And, you know, when I went to court, they had no records, no phone taps. What they did have is they had a recording where Danilo was recording our conversation, but they had no phone records, anything like that there. And they used Danilo, like you said, to decode all of the
Right.
all of the code words. You know, like them and that.
Yeah.
What is he saying when he say them? What is he talking about?
Because 6ix9ine, when he got caught up recently, it was based on the cops thought that he was about to get killed because his former associates said on the phone that they were going to super violate him. And like having spent a long time in New York, I could probably confirm that violate is like a very common thing out there, and that if you were to say super violate, that probably means somebody was going to get killed.
Yeah.
So it was like weird to see the cops had to be able to decode that one, even though I guess it's not that advanced.
Wow. So they had to take him down.
They caught him because they thought he was going to get killed that weekend when they arrested him. Yeah.
Well, you know, I've known cases where the cops actually let somebody get killed.
Really?
Yeah. It was matter of fact, the reason, you know, right now the feds only get 300 minutes a month on the phone. That's
that
because
they can record you?
Right, so they can record you.
But 300 minutes is how much they can record you per month?
Oh no, that's all the minutes you get every month.
Oh, okay.
You get 300 minutes a month on the phone.
Right.
That's it. That's your limit. You know.
Wow.
Spread them out.
And that's why?
Because it was a guy who was trying to have his informant killed while he was in prison.
Really?
And the feds were listening to the conversation, and the hitman wound up killing the wrong person. But they said that for people to have unlimited phone minutes made it really difficult for them to monitor the conversations, even though they knew that the guy was going to kill somebody, but they didn't know exactly who it was, and they didn't stop it.
Were you calling any shots from jail?
No. I mean, you know, I still, you know, I never really call shots like that. I've been more like a motivator, you know. I like to consider myself as somebody who makes people better at whatever they're doing. In the black arena, we don't really have necessarily shot callers. I mean, there are shot callers, but they're not. It's not like, you know, like the Mexican mafia. You know, like you got to line up, you got to exercise every day. Well, in our community, we don't do that. You know. They have rules where they can't sit at certain tables. If you're black in prison, you sit wherever you want. You know, as long as the other group accepts you, you know, you don't get into no ride with them where you bring everybody into it. So it's kind of a different set of rules for the black community.
At what point do you start to sort of envision yourself as being able to be the person that you've really like turned into over the past few years, in the sense that you could be a motivator, that you could take your story and that people would want to hear it, that you could eventually monetize this new image that you created for yourself? When did that start to form in your brain?
Well, you know, I was sitting in prison, and I'm going to tell you the first time. I was reading a book by Malcolm X and Alex Haley, and I started to see what he was doing, and I was like, I can do that. You know, I can do the same thing that he's doing. And then I started to go even deeper, and because they wrote an article about me in the Cincinnati Inquiry, and in this article, it was the front page, and they had, this was the year that it was a presidential year, so they had Bill Clinton, Ross Perot, George Bush Senior, all of them was on the page, and on the other side of them, they had one big picture of me, the $10 million man,
Really?
come to town to go to trial. And my picture was bigger than all three of their pictures, and I was like, wow, they just put you bigger than the president's, you know, like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So when I started thinking about that, I started to think, well, how can you take this and use this to your advantage?
Like that power of celebrity was just, you just started to realize that it was right there for you?
Yeah, that's what I started to realize, and I never really knew that before. You know, when I was on the street, I was kind of sheltered. You know, I had like my 30, 40 guys, and I didn't really like go around a lot of people. You know, it's like the information came to me. You know, it didn't. I didn't go out looking for information, looking for different things. They really brought me everything that I needed, you know. So I was kind of sheltered of what was going on, and I was surprised when I got to jail how big I was. You know, I didn't know I was as big as I was, and until I got to jail and started hearing stories about me.
Right. Because like the legends about you at that time, like pre-internet, pre-everything, like, you know, it's just that stuff was just traveling.
Man. I was in jail one time, LA County Jail, and it was about 7 of us in a holding cell. We were getting booked in, and this one guy is sitting here telling 3 or 4 other guys that he was waiting on me to come bail him out.
Right.
Oh, my cousin come to bail me out. And then he's telling them these stories about how much cocaine was on the table. It was a mountain of cocaine, and we was all just snorting. And I'm like, damn, this dude is over there talking about me, and I'm sitting right here listening to him, and he don't even know it's me.
Right.
So
there must be a lot of storytelling that goes on in that environment, because there's not a lot of ways to fact check people, huh?
No, you can't.
Yeah, I got an uncle. He does this. Like, I know this dude who does this.
You hear so many stories. You know, helicopters and airplanes and, you know, women, and I mean, it just go on and on. Houses and,
right.
You know, the stories is unlimited.
But what's crazy is that from my perspective is that, like, people who've been in prison and stuff, is that in reality, most of those people haven't really done a lot with their lives, so they're pretty impressed by almost anything. I was talking to a friend of mine who's like a pro BMX rider. He's like, man, when I'm in prison, I'll be sitting there telling him a story about like being in Paris, and everybody is like spellbound because ain't nobody been to Paris.
Nah. Most of those guys, you know, like they think most drug dealers are rich, and you know, most of them are not. You know, Ram Report did a study one time, and they said that most drug dealers live with their mama. You know, so a lot of the stereotypes that we believe are not true, and we just have to, you know, just keep searching to get better and educate. And you know, that's really what I'm trying to do now. I want to educate the world about the world of drugs. You know, the people who've never been in it, who haven't been around it. Just basically let them know, you know, what you're going to go through, how you're going to be affected, and so forth.
Is it weird for you to watch how much the weed game has changed over these years? Because, I mean, it's pretty unlikely that we'll see cocaine get any sort of similar treatment throughout our lives, but it's crazy to see. Like, I got friends who are here hanging out all the time who, like, they did 5-10 years off marijuana charges.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and still people doing time right now today. But I'm glad they changed the marijuana laws. You know, from my understanding, marijuana is a health drug. You know, maybe a miracle plant, you know. Definitely that's the saying on CBD, and it was treated just like marijuana just, you know, before a couple years ago. So I'm really excited that they're doing the new laws. You know, only thing I'm mad about is I ain't got a license.
Oh, no. That's rough.
Yeah, I want to get a license, man, and get in the game.
When you hear about all the costs that they'd be throwing on growers and stuff, all of a sudden now, though, it's like this crazy reality check of like when you think about what people were selling pounds for like 5 years ago and how much different the game is now and stuff, it's like, it's unbelievable. They're going to change it into a fucking complete commodity business where like locally owned people aren't going to be able to have any way to get into the legal game, right?
Oh, no doubt. It's going to be controlled by big money. They're already buying up massive amounts of property up in Humboldt and different places. And, you know, even like now with a lot of our big companies, like, you know, Coca-Cola invested $100 million over in Canada in some companies that's in the marijuana. And there was another company that did too. It was like 2 or 3 companies. It was on the news a couple months back, and they was talking about how they're going over to Canada because they can't invest here, so they invested in Canada, which wind up happening. The Canadians come back over here and buy everything up. So yeah, eventually, if the cities and we as the people don't put some type of regulations down, then we'll just be consumers of marijuana and have absolutely nothing to do with the business aspect.
And you'd think that like you would always just be able to get it on the street from someone, which is like almost everybody I know is like buying it from some local guy who sells weed or whatever instead of going to the store and getting ripped off. But then at the same time, it's like I know people who have like grow operations, whatever. They got the legal ones. They got cameras in there. It's like you can't sneak anything out of there. You can't.
It's tough.
Everything regulated as fuck. It's crazy.
Yeah, they say it's tough to get something out of there. But you know they're gonna figure out a way.
Yeah, very true.
They always do. You know, the system where every time they come up with something to stop them, they figure out a way around it. So, it's that cat and mouse game,
Yeah.
and it's probably going to go on. But I don't think they're going to be able to stop the black market because people like buying from people they know, buying from their friends. So, and I think as long as that is the case, then I think that the black market is going to continue to thrive. And the prices that they're charging inside of the dispensaries are ridiculous,
The only people I know who are paying those rates are people who don't smoke large amounts of weed. Yeah. You're a frequent weed smoker?
And you got to have a good job. No, I haven't smoked in a long time. I eat, though. I do the edibles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do the edibles.
Why is that? What do you not like about smoking?
I won't stop.
Really?
Yeah, once I start, I just keep going. I had a bad habit. I mean, an expensive habit when I used to smoke,
When you were like originally out doing your thing, you were smoking weed back then?
Oh, my goodness. Did I smoke weed? I had my own private roller.
Really?
Yeah, his job was just to ride around and roll weed all day.
That's tight. Oh, man, that's all.
He rolled them, I smoke them.
Right. Were you doing coke back then at a certain point?
I did it for about a week, maybe a week and a half.
What was that week like? Best week of your life?
I don't know about that. I woke up, I was messed up, man. My throat was sore. I was like, I ain't never doing that again.
Right.
I ain't never partying. And it used up all my money. When I got to my first ounce, I thought I was rich. Back then an ounce probably was worth about $9,000. I was like, oh my goodness, I got $9,000. I'm rich. And so my cousins, they was already smoking. So they was like, oh, you might as well put some on some weed. Good idea.
What was that like?
We used to call them primos. So.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it, but I also feel like I've heard so many people say that smoking coke in a blunt doesn't really do what it's supposed to do.
I don't know. It got me high.
Yeah, it had me feeling fucking up too.
I had to quit.
Yeah.
I said, no, that's too good.
Yeah.
It was too good for me.
Yeah. I remember because like a person in our room, he found a blunt at this old house we lived in, and we all started smoking, and there's one dude who's faded as fuck, like the dude who knows what every drug is like because he's been fucked up for his whole life, and he fucking hits it. He's like, man, this shit chewy as fuck. He starts telling us there's coke in it, and all of a sudden I start noticing that everybody in the room is tripping out and acting kind of weird all of a sudden. And then we realized that this was like a coke blunt that somebody had
laced.
rolled. Yeah.
Laced.
Everybody in the house was tweaking out. It was the weirdest day ever after that.
It stinks, though.
It did. It smelled weird as fuck, and it tasted weird.
It got a weird smell to it. But see, what they started doing is they started rocking it and then putting the crumbs of the rock inside of the blunt, and it didn't have that weird smell. It was primo.
Dear God. That's so scary right there. Fuck. Okay, so when you look back at your career selling drugs, though, do you, like, I feel like ego, you don't seem like your ego ever really got a hold of you in the way that we expect in the average drug dealer story that we listen to. You don't seem like you were ever the dude who all of a sudden was rocking all the fur coats and shit. You always stayed sort of stable.
I mean, I didn't get in it for that. I got in it because I wanted better. I wanted to have an opportunity to make something for myself. And I didn't see the fur coats, the gold, and the diamonds as me bettering myself. I thought about businesses, create jobs, create an opportunity that would buy the diamonds, the cars, the houses later on down the line. And that's where I put my energy in, trying to create businesses.
But it's like interesting because in my head, I'm kind of comparing you to, like, I just seen Joe Rogan interview Mike Tyson recently, and he's like another guy who has this image as being the most extreme version of something. Like, for you, it's like, I guess, drug-based entrepreneurship. For him, it's just being able to beat the shit out of somebody. But either way, it's like, he succumbed to that fully, became this like ridiculous caricature of what you could possibly be as just a tough brawler. And now he's so removed from that, and it's to the point where he almost doesn't even want to talk about any of his victories and shit like that, because that just shadow that's been cast upon him his whole life from how big his success was, it's like he doesn't even really relate to that version of himself anymore.
Yeah.
But you're a little bit more like middle of the road in the sense that I don't think you ever fully gave in to all the temptations. But then you can also sit here and have like a very matter-of-fact conversation about what you did while you were out there and everything.
Oh, no question. Because I think that talking about history is important. without us knowing our history, then we can repeat what happened already. And the importance of documentation and keeping track of everything is so that we don't make the same mistakes that we made before. Good, evil, whatever, it is what it is. But we definitely need to know where we came from so we can know where we're going.
Right. But when you tell the story, like in previous videos I've seen of you, you don't really make it sound as if there was like huge amounts of violence going on, like within your circle, like that wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't. I didn't have to use violence.
Just why is that? How do you avoid that?
Well, for one, I had myself surrounded where I didn't really deal with a lot of outside people. I knew the people I was dealing with. You know, I had raised my crew. You know, I taught my crew how to sell drugs. I taught them how to work the triple beam. I taught them what an ounce was, what a half ounce. So these guys had a kind of an affection for me that you can't get if you just walk on the street and you run into somebody. Hey man, I'm selling kilos, and I'm buying kilos, and you hook up. That's a scary relationship because you don't know really who this guy is. But with my guys, I knew their mothers. We'd ate at each other's house. We rode bikes together. We played football together. We went to school together. So it was more of a relationship outside of just the drugs. The drugs was just kind of like me inviting them in on making some money.
Right. You ever watch Breaking Bad?
I didn't. I heard about it though.
Fire. It's unbelievable. One of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. But like that kind of the principal dilemma of the show, like sort of at the end of the show, spoiler alert, because I know you're gonna forget this if you ever do get around to watching it, is basically just like they ask him like, because he the whole deal is that he's like a school teacher and then he gets into selling meth, and he says it the whole time that it's to take care of his family, but then like at the end of the show he's basically forced to admit that it was about himself and that it was about seeing what he was capable of and not wanting to live a normal life, and it wasn't really just about feeding his family, because if he wanted to just feed his family he could have sold a little bit and stopped. It's like when you
it's hard to stop though. It's hard to stop. You just can't start and stop like that. It's like being an addict.
Right.
You get addicted. So you're gonna feed your family today, then tomorrow they gotta starve. No.
That's not how people think.
No. I'm gonna go and go and go, and I'm gonna get a nest egg, and then I'm gonna stop.
But but people almost never have that self-control to actually stop when they should stop.
It's hard. It gets more difficult because the bigger you get, the easier it gets. You know, like at first I'm working. When I first started, I work a whole week and maybe make $20, and then the next week I make 40, and then the next week maybe I make 100, and now I'm making 1,000 a week. So should I quit now? After I did
After
that,
put in all that work to get there.
to get here, and now you want me to stop? And no, let me get 10,000, and then you get 10,000, and now you start making 10,000 every week, and then you're like, wow, 10,000 every week. So if I do 100 days, you know what I'm saying, that's $1 million.
Right.
Let me get $1 million.
But you did want to leave. Like you had that at least somewhat in your head, right? That you were going to make this money and then you were going to get out.
That was always the intention. Remember, see, I based my whole strategy on Superfly. Superfly got out, so I was going to get out, just like Superfly did. But that number just kept getting higher and higher.
The amount you want to have.
Yeah. Well, maybe one more house. Maybe a little bigger house. Maybe I get this girlfriend a house too, and I get this car for her or him, and and you just keep finding people who need help.
Was pussy your addiction?
Yeah, probably so. I love it.
More than like the other stuff?
Yeah, I love it.
Still to this day?
Yeah, I do.
You're just a dog. Can't beat it.
I mean, what to me, the woman is the closest thing it is to heaven.
Heard that.
Yeah. So if it's a heaven, it's inside the woman.
It's inside of a pussy. That's the closest thing to fucking heaven I ever found.
Me too. And I love going there.
Right.
As often as I can.
Yeah.
I wish I could go there more.
But are you the kind of guy who likes to, receive his pussy dosage through a relationship, or do you feel like you can't you try the relationship thing and then it just doesn't end up working?
No, I don't mind having a relationship. It's just women, they're so controlling. They like to dominate their man.
Right.
have him at home all the time and get all the money from him. You know, they want the money and the time at the same time, and it's just hard to give both.
Are you still running around all the time, or are you the kind of guy who likes to spend time at home at this point in your life?
Sometimes, you know, I'm at home sometimes, and I'm on the road a lot. Shoot, I just come from France, Miami.
What are you doing out there?
Fashion Week.
Oh,
I went down there with Fresh Jive with Rick.
Oh,
with
so you
Fresh
still
Jive.
work with him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I went down and styled their clothes. You know, they had me styling their clothes, and
Wow.
then we just did a party for me in Miami this past week before last, and then this week we were down in Atlanta for the Super Bowl. You know, took our artists down. I took my artists down, and we were hitting clubs. We hit about 10 clubs up. You know, turn them out, let him get on the microphone and shake them. So I still do a lot, and that's hard. You know, for a woman not to have you at home. And then I got little kids too. I got 2 babies, a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Right.
But I do the best I can.
Were you ever the type of drug dealer? Because not that they're selling drugs, but like QC, the management company in Atlanta, they just recently like posted like all these clips and videos of them in the strip club throwing out like allegedly like $1 million or some shit like that.
No,
like the craziest amount of money. You never felt the need to go for that?
No.
Because they're going for the BMF image right there.
No.
That's definitely like who made that a thing, right? That was kind of after your time.
Not me.
Okay.
Not me. No. My money my money had penitentiary written on it.
But you always felt that way, or you knew that?
Oh yeah, I knew I was going to the pen.
Really?
I was ready.
You didn't think that there was a chance that you could get a good amount of money and get out?
Well, I didn't think I should.
Really? You didn't think you deserved it?
No, I didn't think I deserved to get out.
Didn't deserve a clean getaway?
No. You know, it just don't happen. You know, not in real life. You know, get away scot-free. You know, pay no price.
Right.
No, that's not gonna work. Go to jail. So I was, and I didn't really understand that until after I was sitting in prison, and then I was sitting there and I was like, wow, you know, I used to ask my girl, like, we'd be laying in the bed and I was like, what you gonna do when I go to jail? You gonna run? You gonna come see me?
Yeah.
You gonna send me something? And this is before I never had no cop activity. So what came to me when I was in jail, because I'm doing a lot of thinking now. I got a lot of time to myself, no
Too
TV.
much, right?
Yeah, no radio. So I'm just laying in the bed, you know, thinking. And what came to me was the only reason that I was asking her those questions is because I had put in my mind that I was going to jail. Subconsciously.
I've asked my girl that question, and I don't really think there's a very high chance of me going to jail. But she told me, she's like, I'll give you 2 years. Like, she's like, I don't know about any longer than that. But like,
you got a good girl.
2 years, right?
Hey, you got a good girl.
Most of them
only last 3 months.
Yeah, if she says 2 years, she probably means 3 months. Right? I don't know.
Yeah, most of them bail out on you after the judge hit the hammer. He hit the hammer. 10 years. They be Dear John letters.
I can't blame him. I don't know. So yeah, at this point you're like, oh yeah, this is the other main thread that I wanted to get into. Do you remember when you became aware of Rick Ross, the rapper?
Yeah.
Because did it happen while you were locked up?
Yeah, I was in Texarkana. I had about, I might have had 3 years to do. Well, yeah, I had right at 3 years to do because, no, a little less than 3. Because I missed my statute of limitations by 5 days. I could have won that lawsuit if I had been 5 days earlier.
Really?
That's what the judge said.
Because I did see that in the documentary, and that just seems so brutal and just unfair.
Man, I was like, wow, how could she? You know, we had put everything there, and we felt that it was a solid case, and she could have, you know, because what she did, it was her interpretation, because the law says, when does the public become aware that he's putting out music under this name? Mm-hmm. So the general public, she said, was from one little radio station in the Miami area had started playing that record, and she used the date that radio station started playing the record as the day that triggered the 2 years for the statute of limitations. So she could have said, oh well, maybe it wasn't this radio station, maybe that radio station wasn't big enough, but 99.9 Jams, when they start playing it, the public should have known then,
Right.
that would have gave me enough time to win my lawsuit.
And this must have been like the most bizarre feeling for you to be like, wow, somebody else is like literally using the fucking nickname that I made up.
No, my real name.
Your real name, right?
Yeah, he was using my whole government name.
Oh, right. I forgot that Ross was actually your last name as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Freeway out of Philly, he uses my nickname Freeway, but this guy was using my government name.
Yeah. It's kind of like almost unbelievable that any court in America wouldn't consider that a crime.
Well, you got to look at it, from because I have a tendency to try to look at things from everybody's point of view, and the way the court was looking at it was like, this guy's a drug dealer. He's the scum of the earth. He don't have no rights.
Well, there's other guys rapping about being a drug dealer.
But he's a good guy. Been to college. He has a college degree, no convictions, no record.
Yeah.
He's a good kid.
Yeah.
He just talks about bad shit.
I mean, rap is weird like that, too, because 50 Cent just took another guy's name, too.
Yeah.
There's probably a few more like that, too.
Yeah, it's a bunch of that going on. But, and when the courts look at that, they got one guy who's a real bad guy and another guy who, pretends to be a bad guy, but he's really not a bad guy. Who we're going to go with? Who's telling the truth here?
Right.
And, they tend to lean toward the correctional officer.
And it's crazy because it's like when people talk about sort of that time period of Rick Ross coming out, when he got exposed, the correction officer's photo and all that shit, it's like when people talk about that, they talk about that like that was really like a pivotal change in hip-hop history where all of a sudden, this is a game where being real used to be the number one thing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Rick Ross kind of changed that forever because it's like, and it was just the fact that 50 and Rick Ross beefed. 50 exposed the fucking correction officer photo, and then it didn't matter, and Rick Ross still kind of won the beef. It's like that was pretty much unthinkable previously in hip hop.
Oh yeah,
and that was just sort of like this sign that all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is wrestling.
Yeah, no question. And what it really boils down to is who does the machine want to win? The machine dictates who they're behind, and they've been behind this guy, man, even when his records wasn't selling. We looked at the numbers and the records wasn't selling, but they kept pumping him out there, trying to get people to buy into his whole shenanigans.
And so you've never had any kind of interaction with him in any way?
Well, we spoke on the phone.
Really?
When I first found out that he was using my name. I ran him down, had somebody to find him for me. And we talked on the phone, and he was supposed to come to the prison and see me, and we were supposed to talk about business, how it was supposed to work out, but it never happened.
That would have been incredible, but also probably like too weird to actually happen. Like if I were on his management side team, I would probably be like, yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing business with this dude that you stole his name.
Exactly. Well, I did the Drink Champs the other night with Nori. And,
really?
And Nori was, Nori knows him well, he says. And he was like, well, Rick, maybe he thought you was going to extort him, And he was just, coming up with reasons why the guy wouldn't want to associate with the guy that he loves, like if there's any guy in the world that he loves, it's me.
But do you think it was like real fandom that made him choose that name? Or was it just sort of like, oh, this is the name of a drug dealer and he didn't know that much about you and just did it anyway?
Oh, no, he knew.
Okay.
He knew. This guy, he's smart. No, he ain't no dummy. I mean, when you look at what he's done in the music business, how he's meticulously, I think that's the word.
Meticulously,
yeah, picked different things at different times, different names, like one of his biggest songs, I Think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover.
So he did, he's the kind of guy who knew about all the big drug
He
dealers,
knows, he studies. So, definitely he knew the value of, and what he told me on the phone, the value of having my name, how before he started using my name, nobody listened to him.
Really?
But once he started using my name, people's ears perked. Because what had happened is my name was a household name on the underground. Mm-hmm. And when they heard that name, it automatically draw their attention because it had been ingrained inside of them to know that this name had meaning inside the underground.
Crazy to think that he's actually still getting away with that.
Yeah, yeah.
But does that motivate you to fucking go out here and like put your face
Absolutely.
out there as much as possible?
Absolutely. I'm gonna smash, you know.
Yeah.
I got to become big and powerful, just so that I know that I wasn't a fluke, and I also know that once that happens, that it's gonna overshine what he's done with the name, and eventually he'll back away from the name.
You think that that could potentially happen?
Oh, absolutely, it will happen.
I mean, he could be Ricky Rose too. He's already got other nicknames that he
Man, that
could just
sounds
use.
gay.
It does.
Rose
But
sounds gay. I mean, you know, sometimes people be hollering at me, "Hey, the OG Rose," and I be like, "What up, homie?"
Yeah,
To myself, I be, "That shit's gay."
oh my god, that's hilarious. So
Rose, baby.
give me a day in your life. Like what time you waking up? What's an average day when you're at home?
Most days, I usually wake up around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and start talking to people on the East Coast, lining up my plays.
Wow, so you get up early.
Yeah, I get up early. I usually go to bed around 12,
Okay.
11:30. I start wearing down. After I finish talking on the East Coast, I'll get up and go to the auto auction.
Really?
Yeah,
Daily?
daily. Buy me a couple cars, you know, make some money, so that I have something to blow when I hit the streets.
So you can flip cars on a daily basis, on a regular basis. This is something you're just good at?
Yeah, I'm good at whatever I want to do.
Really?
I believe that if anything that I want to do, if you put me in front of it, let me see it a few times, I can become really, really good at it. Maybe not the best, but I can become really good at it where I can make some money, and I'll do better than the average people will do. I don't care what it is. It's cars, the internet. I'm just now getting on the internet, you know, where I'm starting to talk to my fans on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Sometimes I mess up though. They'd be like, "Man, somebody hacked our page."
wait. Mess up? How so?
Well, you know, I'll be saying stuff that.
You know what is funny though is that you could always tell like older dudes on Instagram and shit because like I don't know if you know Whack 100.
Yeah, I know.
I'm always seeing Whack respond to people on Instagram, and I want to be like, Whack, you don't have to respond to him, bro. Like he's responding to every comment. Fuck you, you don't know shit, motherfucker. Like just screaming on people.
Yeah, I met Whack a couple weeks ago at a fight.
Oh really?
Yeah. So me and him supposed to hook up and try to put some stuff together. Talk to him about Blueface. You know, getting ready to do his tour, and I'm hoping I can get my artist on a couple of dates with him. And you know, matter of fact, I hollered at Whack Saturday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to interview him soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
Do you fuck, I lost it. Thinking about Whack made me lose it. No, I was gonna say, okay, the books. When did you start writing them, and what's the mission with each one?
Well, this book right here, this is my autobiography here. I wrote this one here when I was in prison, and I didn't know if I was gonna get out or not. You know, my lawyer told me I wasn't gonna get out. The prosecutor told me that I wouldn't be getting out. The judge told me that I wouldn't be getting out, and I didn't know if I was gonna get out or not.
Shout out Boyce Watkins writing the recommendation on the back. That's pretty official.
Yeah. So what I did is I said, you know what can you do? What can you do for the world? I mean, what do you have to offer the world now? Here you are in a 6x12. You only let out to go get your tray and shower. You're done. What can you do? And some come to me and say, write a book. You know, teach the young people your lessons that you learned from the drug game, and put it in a book. And that's what I did.
Oh yeah.
That's how that one came about. So it's kind of like my letter to the world. You know, if they want to know what it was like being in prison with a life sentence without the possibility of parole, what I was going through, pick up the book.
Does this mean a lot to you? Because when you look at it, it makes you think about that chapter in your life that you left
absolutely.
behind?
That book means a lot to me, man. And I mean, I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this whole thing. You know, being in court, seeing my mom break down. You know, I never saw my mom break down like she did in court when they gave me the life sentence. It was like I just, a knife had been right in her heart. And, she just like, my mom was about 78, 79. And I was like, oh, wait, you ain't gonna never see your mom free again.
And that was the case? She died while you were in prison?
No. I got out. She died in my bedroom.
Really?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
So she was lucky enough to see you change your life, though.
Yeah.
It meant a lot to her?
We got 8. Oh yeah, I was her number one. You know how they had that number one. She knew if she called me, I was coming.
Right.
But being in prison took that away. Where if she'd have called, I couldn't have came. If she needed me, I couldn't be there. And that was one of the hardest things about being in prison is that it takes away your dignity. Your ability to be important, to have substance. I used to
be part of someone's life that you love.
Yeah, I used to be in prison and I used to wrestle with this, and I was like, wow, when I was on the street, my girls used to fight over me. And now they don't even write me a letter. They won't come see me, won't send me a picture, won't bring my kids to see me. What happened?
Yeah.
And what I figured out is that I lost my substance. I became an empty bottle, something that had no value to them. And the reason that they were doing all that on the street is because I had tremendous value to them. And once you lose your value, then, people have a tendency to forget about you, throw you in the trash, and walk away.
That's crazy. And that's like the weird thing about people who, once they start to, experience their life starts accelerating and all of a sudden they can afford the clothes and the chains and all this shit, is that like they let that begin to infect their brain. This is who I am. Like this $10,000 outfit, this is who I actually am. They start to really believe that.
This is me.
Yeah. And it's so not.
No, not at all. Not at all. And that's what I had to go, for real though, I had to go all the way down.
Yeah.
Because as long as I still had money, I was still on the phone. My first months in prison, my phone bill was like $8,000 a month. It was ridiculous. But as the money started to dwindle, then I had to become more in tune with me. And it took away all of the costumes, the fantasies, the make-believes, the people who only like you for what you had, only around you because what you could do for them. And I'm really on that right now, with people just coming around just to get what they can get. They really don't like to be around you, but they have to.
Right. And it's so unbelievable to think about, like, from the perspective of being somebody who's locked up, that once all that substance, all that value, all that fake value that you had created around yourself to, like, sustain your ego and everything, and then when there's still people who do love you, then you really get a perspective on what love is. When you look at the way your mom felt about you.
Oh, absolutely.
You could have lost everything. You could have been in a way worse position, and still that wouldn't have changed for her.
No, that's unconditional love. My mom, like I said, she was like 77, 78 years old. And when I was in San Diego, she would drive from LA to San Diego by herself. And I was like, Mom, don't do it no more. Because I felt it was so dangerous for her to be that old to be driving by herself. But that's the way she felt, and I've been looking for that woman that feel the same way, like Mama.
Right.
No matter what you do, you all right with me.
Yeah. That's real right there.
Kind of like the love a kid gives you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why the kid love is just so crazy, You can be gone for 10 weeks and come home and they jump on you.
Yeah, and you can feel like a lot of people love you, but then at the end of the day, blood is really the thing that ties everything. Your kids are always going to love you. Your mom's always going to love you. It's like everything else besides that feels pretty immaterial in comparison.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be though, because if you you got a buddy and you guys really genuinely care for each other and have each other's back, then it should almost be the same as the mother's love and the kids' love. Where you my guy. I'm here with you no matter what happened. I'm gonna fall with you. And that was one of the reasons that when I was younger I was kind of drawn to the gangs, because those guys were willing to die for each other.
And it gives you a sense of identity that you can't really get, a sense of protection, a sense of a lot of things that you can't really get anywhere else.
Exactly. Because so many other people, like we were saying, it's fake. They're gonna be gone. But with the gang culture, and that's why it's so amazing to me, is that these guys will literally die and go to prison with each other.
Right. But how do you speak to a kid who's involved in that world, who's in a gang, who's selling drugs, who's doing all that? And like, how do you advise him on how to move along with his life? Because you know that he probably needs to be affiliated with those people in order to protect himself. He probably needs to do crime in order to sustain what he's got going on. How do you, as someone who's seen it all, done it all, how do you speak to them?
Well, what we have to do is teach them how to take those same skills that they've developed in the illegal world and develop that same mindset for legal business. Because business is business. I don't care what it is. It's really the same principles. Each product has a little different twist to it, but it's really the same. And if they are able to apply the street mentality to business, and then it's crazy. I mean, just look at me. Look at what I'm doing right now. I mean, unbelievable. Some of the stuff that I got going on. I can hardly believe the opportunities that I've created for myself. And I know now that I could have created these for myself all the time had I been focusing my energy toward those.
But isn't it crazy to think that, for a kid who's in a gang or who's in the street life or whatever, like the two things that you could really do to create value around your name, hurting somebody, possibly taking somebody's life / being in a gang or being, sent to jail for a long period of time, that, you did the jail thing. Like, in large part, the reason why your name holds so much weight is because you did the exact things that you want to tell them not to do, even though they know that the reason why you're a legend is in large part because you went out there and you did the illegal things that they weren't supposed to do, that you're telling them not to do.
Yeah, but I know now that I could have did it the same way. It might have not been the way it is right now, but just think, I did 8 years selling drugs. Then I did 20 years in prison. Now just think, you're talking about 30 years. Now, if I would have worked 30 years, the way I work, the way I save at McDonald's, I probably would have like 30 McDonald's right now.
Yeah. It would have been slower, but you would end up with something more sustainable.
Exactly. And that's the point. Not that I wasn't able to turn it around and get the boat going right. Just because the boat did go crooked don't mean that everybody's boat got to go crooked. Why do you want to turn your boat that way when you already know that you got to turn it this way, and if you turn it that way, that you can get the same results. I believe that a person who starts out with no background, no nothing, can do what I'm doing, maybe not as fast as I did it right now, but in time. I mean, I've been home almost 10 years right now, so the success that I'm having right now didn't come overnight, and it didn't come because, people will say, and people tell me that all the time, well, you sold drugs and that's how you got your reputation. But yes, a lot of guys that sold drugs and they didn't write the newspapers. They don't have no damn reputation. Yeah, they don't have no reputation. They don't have a documentary on Netflix. I dreamed that documentary up when I was in prison, when I was writing a book. I thought also about doing a documentary. So a lot of that is me taking me. What I learned. Let me say this here. What I learned when I was growing up, I was being molded by my environment. My environment was shaping who I was becoming. Once I went to prison and I started to understand that I could control that person, that I could dictate who that person became and what went inside of this mind, then I started taking control of that, and I started to deliberately put inside of me what I thought was important.
Mm-hmm. Is it hard for you to listen to rap music at this point in your career because there's so much like romanticization of, silly virtues?
Yeah. I don't listen to much rap. To me, it's a joke, with most of the guys, talking about they sold drugs and parlayed it into a record career. I don't believe it, I've
seen it, but more often than not, nah.
Yeah. But they don't talk about Universal giving them checks and Warner Brothers, giving them checks. So when I think about it, that's pretty much how I look at it, is that it's a bunch of make believe. You know, it's a bunch of Hollywood. You know, guys driving Rolls Royces that was rented and loaned, and the record label, you know, let them use the jewelry, and you know, they telling these young kids that they got it from selling drugs, and I think it's bogus.
And the kids are falling for it.
Falling for it every time.
Yeah, but it's weird to be in that position of knowing better, because you also know that if you make it perfectly clear that you don't buy into this shit, that sort of draws a line in the sand between you and the next generation, the fans, the artists, etc. Because a lot of those might be people that you don't necessarily want to alienate yourself from, right?
No, I don't. I mean, but at the end of the day, you know, I'm gonna be who I am. I'm gonna stand by my morals. You know, just because everybody else want to jump off a bridge, don't mean I'm gonna jump off. You know, and I don't care if you get mad at me because I'm not jumping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's your prerogative. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna stand my own ground. They're not paying my rent. You know, my rent is not based on if they like me or not, or if they buy my book, or you know, buy a T-shirt or sweatshirt or whatever. It's not based on that. So at the end of the day, I don't play to my own tune.
Mm. You ever did any content with Gary V?
I'm supposed to do Gary V Monday.
Really? I was gonna ask if you had done any content with him, and I was also thinking, I'm like, you just remind me a lot of him in general, in the sense that
I love Gary V.
He's turned himself into this like image of being an entrepreneur and like hard work and everything, and it's like even
he says in words what I think. I think just like Gary, you know, like I hear him telling people, you fake ass entrepreneurs.
But what's crazy too is that like Gary did like a shoe drop around the corner. I seen the line. Number one, there's a line around the fucking block, and number two, probably 80% of the line is black people. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, how the fuck did Gary V get so hot with this community? Like,
wow,
it's kind of amazing.
Yeah. Well, he's good though, man.
No, he was good.
I just hope they listen to him.
No, yeah. I don't know if they were that excited about the K-Swiss.
Yeah.
Or if they just wanted to meet Gary.
Yeah, probably wanted to meet Gary. I mean, if I would have knew he was there, I would have been there. But yeah, I go there Monday.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, I fly to New York. I'll be leaving out Red Eye Sunday night. I'll be doing the Jim North show in the morning, 7 o'clock, and then I'll hit Gary at 4.
You're definitely somebody who understands the value of media appearances, huh?
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Well, you know, I studied when I was in prison. You know, I went to prison. I was illiterate, but before I got out, I read over 300 books.
Really?
And I'm reading again. You know, I said I wasn't going to read any more books, but right now I'm reading Gary's book, Crush It.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been reading that for a couple days. Was reading it on the plane last night. I just finished another book on Instagram, and I finished one on Facebook about how to use the internet
really
properly and make some money.
Has that been a little bit of a hard transition?
It has because you know, I'd never been on the internet before. I mean, I'd never been on a computer before I got out of prison. So for me coming home and then everybody got these little bitty phones. When I left, you know, my phone was like this, you know.
I remember my dad got out of prison in '96, and he was just saying that he was going to learn all about the internet. That did not happen. The year is 2019, and he checks basketball scores online, and he can write emails. That's about it.
Yeah, I got to learn how to do emails too. I got to learn everything, man. I'm raw, but you know, I got some people that's teaching me now. I hired some people to teach me, and my team they're helping me. So I'm gonna get it in a minute. I enjoy it though. You know, I enjoy getting on there talking. You know, especially to all those pretty women.
Oh, jeez. Can't even imagine your DMs. No, the thing that you said that made me think about Gary was when you were saying the thing about the cars and how you feel like you could enter into any market and you could find some profit to be found. Because Gary, like, I mean, people almost...
No, in prison, I had all the stamps.
Oh, in prison is where it's really going down, huh? That's a more simple economy.
Yeah, man. I had all the stamps. When it was tuna fish, I want all the tuna fish.
Right.
It's tuna, whatever it is, whatever the currency is, I want a bunch of it.
Because his thing is always like, go to a yard sale, find something that for $1 that you can sell for $3. And that's the beginning of your career, because all of a sudden you're not just working for an hourly rate. You're like flipping something, and you can keep flipping bigger and bigger things.
And you know, in doing my studies, I found out that the richest people in the history of mankind is people that sell. You have to be a seller. You know, if you can't sell, you know, you might do all right. But if you want to be wealthy, you got to be able to sell stuff.
It's
And
very true.
and I don't mind selling. You know, I don't mind asking them for their money. Give
Yeah.
me that money.
All the saltiest people on earth are the people who have no sales skills.
Yeah.
And they're mad as fuck because they're not the ones on the receiving end of the riches in society. Who the fuck is that? That's Redman? Oh, shit. All right, that was loud. We just heard Redman's voice in the background, I guess. Hey, shout out to Freeway Rick. Fuck, what do you like pushing in particular right now that you really want to promote?
Well, you know, I think my book is definitely, well, you know, both my books. I just did another one. This one just got released 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And this book here is crazy how it came about, man. The 21 Keys of Success. And it's about...
A little play on words there.
Yeah, yeah.
21 keys. Just checking.
It's about basically how a friend of mine was riding around with me, and he was watching how I was using these principles to make money.
Amazing.
And he put it down.
Redman is in the building.
What up, Red? What up, man? Come on over here, man. What's up, baby? Long time.
The king of selling coke and the king of smoking weed. I was saying that before. No, we were just wrapping up anyway. Oh, man.
Yeah, so
Wait,
so they can check out the book, both my books. You can get them at my website, freewayrickross.com. Also, the documentary is still on Netflix. You know, we're still up there. We're going to start shooting a movie in March.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got our budget together, and we hope in March we'll be shooting. Other than that, that's about it, man. Look out for my artists. You know, hopefully you have my artists on your artist.
Oh, yeah, I got to check them out. What are their names? Uh-oh.
Not cool. Not cool. I mess everybody's name up, and he got on me the other night when I introduced him at the club in Atlanta. He got on me about introducing the wrong person.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're like 40, 50 years into rap history, so the names now have, they get more complicated and like, there's all kinds of initials at the ends of the
Why
names.
You didn't come up with a common name like John?
No, just see, back in the early days of rap, that might have worked. You could have been John. Now there's been too many,
Yeah, but he's real talented, and we pushing him right now, and we'll be going around the country with him. So, be on the lookout for us.
Amazing. All right. Well, hey, thanks a ton for coming on the show. Thanks to everybody who watched this. Please stay tuned because we're about to do an interview with Redman next.
Uh-oh.
Believe it or not, the way I just said that made it sound like less of a big deal than it actually is. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Thank you very much, Ricky. Appreciate you, man.
All right. Appreciate you.
Thank you, G.